Okay, we are up and running. Sweet. Welcome, everyone. Mix, Quick was in here first. Go ahead and roll me a D100, Quick, for the question. 59. Let's see here. 59. That's kind of an amusing question. What is one food that you simply will not eat, and why is it meatloaf? I think we can take off the why is it meatloaf part, but what is a food that your character will not eat? I'll give you a moment here to ponder on your tastes.
Blossoms actually is meatloaf.
Fair enough. I sympathize. I have not had very many good meatloafs.
Because it was made with scraps, and that was the only thing fed to the children in the Colosseum. Blossom hates meatloaf.
That's a good reason. That sounds disgusting.
Wait a minute. Dude, you haven't tasted my meatloaf. If you taste my meatloaf, you'd love it.
Well, there you go. You can put your meatloaf on the menu here and see how people of Waterdeep like it.
I don't eat meatloaf because, well, I mean, like Mick said, he's a big fan, and I've been doing stuff to it for years.
And nobody was surprised by that.
That's great. Alright. Zara, what won't you eat?
Come back to me.
Come back to you. Okay. Mix, Jinku, what won't you eat?
Jinku will pretty much eat anything. I mean, she was brought up in the military, was in the military for a long time. You ate whatever was available.
Fair enough.
Mix has a hard time with sausage. Ever since Boo tried to poison him, well, Mix is allergic to almonds, and Boo put almonds in his sausage one day, and ever since then he's had a hard time with sausage.
Alright.
Fucking bastard.
I'll have to see if there are any almond-based creatures in the monster manual. Alright, Sarah.
I think it would have to be meat. Just because,
Meat in general?
yeah.
Okay.
Zyara just doesn't really enjoy meat. She lives a mostly vegetarian lifestyle. Well, probably more pescatarian. She'll eat fish. Part of that stems from when she was a servant in the noble house, because they would feed them anything that had spoiled.
Dude.
And so ever since then, even the smell of meat just makes her a little nauseous.
Alright. Thank you for that. Alright, anyone want to sum up for us what shenanigans y'all got up to last time?
Mix did unspeakable things to adore.
Yes.
And after
If he learned from that experience,
I don't think he learned
No.
anything from that experience.
I didn't do anything unspeakable to that door.
You did many
You know-
unspeakable things to that
you
door.
know what you did. You know what you...
I was just trying to make some money, and the crazy elephant person came along and destroyed it. So it's her fault.
And then we almost got killed by some skeletons. And then we got the hell out of the Blue Alley
Yep.
and went back to our manor.
Yep.
And I believe we turned in the crystal unicorn.
Yeah. Mert did show
No.
up. Hmm.
No, we didn't get that far.
No, you guys did.
Yeah.
You guys did. Mert showed up right at the
Yeah, I
end and took that off your hands and paid you for what was due from him for that. And you guys, of course, have all the various other things you looted from in there that are in your person. And Quick went over to the bookstore, or Boo went over to the bookstore, and found out a little bit more about his little lantern that he got out of the wall. And that was pretty much where we left off. Oh, and there was a note that was left for you guys that the wood carver had told you about, the tally had told you about.
Alright.
Can I still meet with what's his name that we traded the statue to?
With Mert?
Yeah, I want to see if I can get a loan to finish the manor.
Okay. Yeah, you could try to set up a meeting with Mert, yeah. Yeah, so you've got... you got Mert you can go check on. There's this inquiry for your services that have been dropped off while you guys were away that Tally had told you about. Those are about the only two leads you guys have right now for the most part in terms of stuff.
Well, Mix is gonna send one of the kids. It doesn't matter whichever wants to run his message
Okay.
to Mert, and he's gonna walk down to the bookstore.
Okay.
He wants something more malevolent than just healing alchemy.
Okay. So you relay this message to Jenks, who kind of just nods excitedly and takes the little scrap of paper that you'd kind of written your inquiry on about your interest in some sort of loan going on, and he runs out the door off into the streets, and you make your way over to the bookseller. So you walk in through the door and once again find yourself within the bookworm, and at the moment, looking around, you don't seem to see the proprietor in view. You assume they're probably in here somewhere, but they don't seem to be readily apparent at the moment. What are you looking for in here?
Mix is going to look for knockout potions. Like he's looking for a spell that can knock out people, like a potion. And he's also going to be looking for sex potions so that he can sell them to any impotent males in the city and make money.
Okay. Let's see here. Well, so for a moment you kind of browse around in the shop here, kind of on your own. I'm just kind of looking around at some of the various books that are on these shelves. In your browsing, let's see here. In your browsing here, you happen to come across a book that seems to have, or seems to be related to, some sort of like attraction potion, at least some kind of like love potion of some sort. maybe not so much on the impotence side of things, but some sort of attraction type potion.
Yeah, he's not interested in that. I mean, he's basically looking for a potion that will, or some way he can do alchemy, and lady gets horny and man gets hard.
Okay.
Looking for ye old Viagra.
The old Viagra. Yeah, at least from what you find looking around in here, you don't seem to see much in that way. Perhaps Rochelle doesn't really specialize in these kinds of things. Rochelle does eventually come out from the back room. It seems they were doing some work back there, kind of at the start. And they see you in the front and kind of go, "Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you come in. What can I assist you with today?"
Basically, I'm gonna tell him I'm looking for offensive alchemy. Basically, things I can put into a vial and knock people out. And I'm also looking for sexual alchemy.
Okay. Shaw kind of thinks for a moment and says, "Well, I don't really have details on things of a lascivious nature, but I may have something in the line of a more, a sleep type potion or something along those lines. Let me see what I can find." And so Rashal kind of shuffles off through the bookshelves here and tries to kind of look around for something of that sort. And eventually returns a little bit later with a tome that seems to detail some ingredients and fashionings of various sleep tonics of various kinds. Book itself seems to be kind of more about it seems to be kind of almost a self-help type book in terms of helping people, potions to help people get to sleep, but they seem like they might also be used in that sort of way to knock people out unawares as well.
I'm not sure if you're getting what I'm meaning, sir. I'm looking for something very well, I'm trying to be very specific. This is not what I'm looking for. I already know how to refeed people. That's no problem. But I want something that I can bring enjoyment into people's lives. So if they're having problems with their sexuality or something like that, I can give them a potion and they can enjoy themselves. Be free. Does that make sense?
Yes, I certainly understand, but that isn't really the type of things that I have around in my shop here. I'm not really in that kind of business, I'm afraid.
Do you know who is?
They kind of think for a little moment and kind of look around, and they don't seem very sure. This doesn't seem like something they really get asked about. They aren't really sure where that would be found.
Can I see a list of all alchemy books that you have available?
I'm not sure so much about a printed list. It's difficult to keep track of a full ledger of everything in here, but with some time I could probably try to get some sort of list put together, but fortunately not something I have on hand.
I have the book of healing you gave me, but also, is there an alchemy book that we could put in our drinks to make people drink more? and not get intoxicated.
And they kind of chuckle a little bit and say, "Oh, were that I had something like that, I'd be the beck and call of every tavern master in the city. That would be a draught I'm sure they would all love to pull. For the endless coin that would bring in, but alas, I am afraid I'm not aware of such a thing."
Okay. Well, thank you. And Mix is gonna leave.
Okay.
He's gonna throw a silver piece on the counter for his troubles.
Okay. Shaw kind of nods, thankfully, in his direction. What are the rest of you up to?
Sourcing local almonds for the bowls on the bar.
Alright.
No, just kidding. I'm sleeping in, probably.
Sleeping in. Alright. Zara, Jinku, are you guys checking into anything at all?
Jinku's probably just keeping herself busy, like finding little odd jobs or cleaning around the manor.
Yeah, I'm probably just tending to the manor and the kids.
Alright. So you guys, the rest of you are kind of busying yourselves around the manor, doing your kind of various cleanup work that you had been doing. And about mid-afternoon or so, you hear a knock at the front door. It's kind of a fairly delicate knock, actually. It doesn't seem, very rough or brash or in a hurry, but just kind of a gentle rapping on the front door.
On our chamber door.
The what?
A gentle rapping on our chamber door.
Yeah, a gentle rapping on your chamber door, certainly.
I guess I go and answer the door.
Okay. So you go and open the front door, and you find yourself in front of a very regal-looking tiefling. He kind of stands there, tall, straight, proudly, rather demure, and he's dressed in pretty fine clothing. Kind of a nice tailored suit of some kind, but reserved. And he kind of nods at you as you open the door, Zara, and says, "Hello, my lady. Are you the owner of this place?"
One of them.
"Ah, wonderful. Perhaps you received my note the other day. I left it with a wood carver that was working in here while you were away. Did he pass the word on to you at all?"
Yes, I believe he left the note here.
"Ah, good. I mean, I hate to bother you again, but my lord has requested that I make another visit to inquire if you are still interested in assisting him at all."
Wait, did we get the note?
Did you what? Did you get the note?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys did.
Can you refresh me on what the note said?
Sure. So the note that Tally had given you the other day was a kind of an inquiry or summons of sort from the Castellanter family of Waterdeep. They're inquiring into your services to assist with a family matter.
Okay. Sorry, what
I don't know
was
why
his
we wouldn't be
question?
willing.
What was his question?
The
Tiefling.
The tiefling. He was asking if you had gotten the note, and if you were at all interested in following up with the family, if they were interested in finding out more about the supposedly job they are offering you.
We might be interested depending on the job. The note was rather vague. Do you have any additional details?
Yes, I'm afraid it's something we cannot speak about freely. It is a family matter, after all. Pardon me, I'm afraid I failed to introduce myself. I am Willifort Crowell. I am the butler for the Castellanter family. If you're interested at all, I mean, they would be willing to have you over for a meal and to discuss the matter over food, if you would be willing.
How much are they willing to pay?
That is something I'm not at liberty to disclose, but they would be more than happy to discuss the terms over dinner. At their villa, of course.
Wait,
What
did
are they
Mix
cooking?
come back?
The what?
I said, did Mix come back? I thought this was while he was at the bookstore.
He's probably made his way in at some point.
Well, I will tell you this. We have an extensive bill for repairs and to get this place into order. They're not willing to discuss substantial payment. The answer is no.
I thought you were out looking for Mert.
That too.
I'm waiting for Mert.
He sent one of the kids to try to go find him. He sent Jenks out. Jenks is out in town somewhere. But you haven't heard back from Jenks yet. But yeah, Willifort kind of nods and says, Well, I may not be at liberty to discuss sums. I can assure you that the Castellanters would be more than happy to assist with your needs here at this, and he kind of looks around trying to gauge what exactly it is you're doing, and he kind of questioningly says, tavern?
That's our intention. We're still working to...
Well, we're gonna
Fix
make
things
clothes
up.
in the basement too, I think.
Well, whatever it is that you all plan to do with this place, they are more than willing to assist in however way that they can. I assure you it would be no small sum for the assistance you would give the family.
I say we go. Hell, nothing else, it's a free meal.
Agreed.
I'm with
Yes,
Jenkins.
go ahead and tell the family that you work for that we will be there for dinner.
Wonderful. Sounds like a plan. Says, well, we hold dinner at 6 o'clock sharp. I'll send a carriage around for you here to bring you all to the villa.
In the meantime, Mix is going to go down into the shop of horrors,
Okay.
knowing that Boo still has one of like his rookie potions.
Mm-hmm.
But
I still
he
got
is
mine,
going to look through his book.
Mm-hmm.
If he needed every herb and everything that he needed in this book, how much would it cost him?
That would probably be something I'd have to get back to you on, because I don't have those details right now.
How about 10 gold? Like he sends one of the kids out with the list with 10 gold to go to the herb shop.
I mean, it could probably get a decent amount of herbs, depending on like the rarity of them. But I mean, that would probably get a good bit of them. Just assuming.
Okay, so he's going to make up a list, and for supplies, well, alchemy supplies and files and all that he needs, how much do you want to charge him in total for the herbs and supplies?
Let me see here. Let's see. See if I can find any info on that. Let's see. All right. Well, at least from this with 10 GP, that would probably get you about 5 pretty normal sized vials. And then the rest would probably be, let's see here. Yeah, if you did like half of that, if you did like 10 GP and did like half of that towards some vials and half of that towards some herbs, like that could probably get you like a pretty decent basic spread of like your kind of rudimentary alchemical herbs that you'd likely use in a fair number of things.
Okay, I'm gonna spend 40 and 20 to herbs and 20 to the vials and stuff like that.
Okay.
I'm gonna send the kids out to get
Okay.
like they're going from
Okay. Yeah, they can head over to Corellin's Crown and probably get at least yeah, they would probably get most of that stuff there, I think. Or at least find other ways to get some of the other stuff if Corellin's doesn't have it. Yeah, that's fine.
I tell them that there is 3 silver pieces if they do a good job.
Alright. So Nat and Squiddly both kind of are excited at this and at the silver pieces that you offer them in addition to their other work, and kind of excitedly head out the door to kind of gather those. At this point, it's getting fairly on in the afternoon here on this day, and you assume, like, you aren't really sure where the Castellanter's villa is at. You aren't really familiar with, you know, what part of the city they might be in or how far. But at least from what you assume this carriage is probably going to be coming for you here pretty soon.
Sweet.
All right. Well, we'll say, a little time passes. You kind of continue to busy yourselves around the manor here. The children who'd gone out for the herbs return, since that's just across the street, and kind of bring those down into your basement and kind of set them on one of the tables down there. They aren't really sure what to do with them, so leaving that for you to do what you will with. And shortly afterwards, you hear, horses coming up the street outside of the manor, and you find a pretty large and stately carriage waiting for you all out in the front. Willifort is at the reins of it. He kind of jumps down gingerly from up top and kind of straightens his tail a little bit and opens the door, motioning for you all to get in.
Sweet. I jump in enthusiastically.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
It's gonna follow.
All right. So you all get into the carriage. Let me grab a different map here. Could have sworn I had this marked in here somewhere. Hold on. Let me find the right map here. that's right. I was looking at the wrong section of the city. Alright, so you are taking on a decent ride across the northern side of Waterdeep, and eventually find yourselves over in the Sea Ward, so the northwestern-ish part of town. And you find yourself pulling up to the villa on the corner of Delzerand and Diamond Street here in Sea Ward. You should see that marked on the map, right in the middle pretty much, with a green pin. So pulling up to this, you see this villa. It's, surrounded by these stately brick walls all around the edges with kind of iron fencing along the top as well. It's kind of an extra measure of protection, it seems. And inside, just, from pulling up, seeing what's poking up over the top, you see a few different buildings, including the main mansion that seems to poke up from the eastern side. Oops, this map's a little too big. Let me scroll this down. Hello, cat. Yes, I hear you whining. And the gate pulls up to the kind of southeastern side of the manor, and Williford hops down from the reins and moves over to open a large iron gate that kind of leads inwards. Let me share this to you here. And you find yourself kind of coming in along the southeastern side of this villa, the large house with some, a few towers and, 3 or 4 stories tall in most parts. Off to the left of you here, or off to the right of you here, as you pull in on the southeast side. And the interior of the villa, inside the walls, they have these lovely gardens all over on the outside with, a variety of trees, seemingly from, various areas around the realm. And the cart stops in the center of the yard, where you see a pretty ornate small flower garden, which is in a series of lovely blooms this time of year, all different colors in each of the beds. And there seems to be a very elegant statue in the middle and a bit of a fountain off to the left-hand side. It's very peaceful villa in here. So as you come inside, or as you get down out of the carriage here, you kind of hear the laughter of some children, and you see, kind of running from the northeastern corner of the yard of this villa here, a young girl and boy, kind of playing together. They seem to be kind of playing tag or something akin to this. Kind of running through the yard here. Let me share a picture with you here. So the 2 children here are the ones you see kind of running through the yard. Both of them dressed in, pretty noble finery. This seems to be a pretty well-to-do, noble family of Waterdeep. But they seem to be, like most kids do, not much of a care in the world. Just kind of happily playing around. And as Willem kind of motions you out of the cart here, he kind of chuckles, seeing the kids running around here, and says, "Ah, yes, this is Elzarina and Terenzio, the twins of the Castellanter family." And he kind of continues chuckling a little bit as he watches them running around, and then makes his way over towards the door of the main house. So all of you are kind of just standing in the yard here next to this flower garden.
A beautiful garden. Don't you think? That... Kids, not so much.
The garden is lovely, though perhaps a bit too ornate for my tastes.
Agreed. Well, shall we go inside?
I suppose we should hear what offer this family has for us.
Yes, we should. I'll head that way.
Okay. So you all follow after Willifort here. And he kind of motions you in through the main doors of the mansion here. And you find yourselves in a lovely kind of great entryway hall. Like you kind of come in through the door and are kind of in this kind of short tunnel of sorts, and then kind of find yourselves right in the middle of the place at the base of this large curving set of marble stairs that go up to the second floor. You continue hearing kind of the laughing and kind of playful screams of the children outside. And after a moment, you see coming out from the dining room a kind of tall, handsome human male with a kind of a long, pointed beard, kind of elegantly styled, and wearing quite fine clothes that you kind of come to expect from the nobles of Waterdeep, as you've kind of gone around in your travels. And he says, "Ah, welcome, friends, to the Castellanter Villa. I appreciate you taking an interest in my offer. My name is Victoro." He kind of bows a little bit in your direction.
Good day.
Good day, Vittorio. My name is Buthvet, Master of the Plains, Defender of... Well, anyway, you get it. How may we be of service for you? Those of us that are intelligent enough to be of service, that is. Side-eyeing Mix.
Zoro kind of chuckles kind of dryly at this and says, "Well, I mean, I would certainly love to discuss with you, but standing here in the hall is hardly the best of places to discuss. Come, let us eat and discuss over dinner." And he kind of turns with a flourish and kind of walks into the room to the north, where you find a very ornately laid out table of a dinner, pretty much a banquet table almost, with this wide array of foods, meat dishes, vegetable dishes, fruits, all breads, like all sorts of things, all over this table in various dishes. And he kind of passes towards one end of the table and makes himself at home in the head seat, and he kind of waves his hand up in the air, and Willifort comes over quickly, and he says, "Well, bring the children in." And Willifort nods and heads out of the room, assumedly to go grab the twins. And a moment later, you also, coming from behind you down the stairs, you hear some footsteps, and you see the lady of the house coming down the stairs. She is also very ornately dressed, beautiful, youthful, with these long brown hair that is done up in several places, being held up to her head, and wearing this kind of long, ornate gown. She says, "Ah, yes. We are so grateful that you have come to our family. Please, make yourselves at home. We're happy to have you here." And the two twins kind of come in running among you as you're all kind of standing here laughing, and make their way to some of the chairs over by their father here.
Well, thank you for being so welcoming. I will make myself at home. Thank you.
All right, so you all sit down at this lovely banquet table and begin helping yourself to this bounteous meal and having a good time here together. And, after a few moments here, as you all are just kind of getting your plates filled with the various things, Vittorio kind of looks up at you all and says, "So, what brings you all to Waterdeep? I hear you all are fairly newcomers, but have made quite a name for yourself."
I seek to break some bonds that I hold and become an immortal. How about you?
Ah, the breaking of bonds. Yes, I have known that feeling in my time. A noble cause.
Yes.
I've lived in Waterdeep for most of my life, but I've only recently joined with these people.
Ah. Well, it is always good to have companions, yes?
Yes, that is what I hear.
And he he's kind of looking you up and down, Jinku, kind of interestedly. It's kind of like, and he eventually kind of says, we don't see too many of your kind around these parts. I haven't seen a Loxodon in quite a while. I feel like, mayhaps I've seen one in the distance in the streets, but never made an acquaintance of one, I can't say.
Well, now you can.
Good. So as you guys kind of continue making a conversation here with these two, eventually, excuse me, cat is in the way. Eventually you see that Vittoro's wife seems to have kind of a concerned expression on her face as time goes by and you guys are conversing on other subjects. And eventually you see her kind of giving him a sidelong glance. And he kind of clears his throat and says, yes, of course. I guess we should get to the business of the matter here. And as he finished this sentence, his wife kind of immediately starts talking and says, Yes, it is. I fear there is danger at present for our family, for our children. There is a force that seems to be after them. I am afraid. We fear for their safety. And we've heard great word of the work that you have done for others here in Waterdeep, and are wondering if you might be able to perhaps save our children from a terrible fate.
What is it that you believe is after your children?
And Vittoro and his wife kind of look at each other for a moment here and says, and Vittoro kind of looks back at you all and says, we believe there is a cult that is after the lives of our children. We aren't quite sure to what ends they seek. Perhaps they just have some sort of qualm with the nobles of Waterdeep, that I do not know. But several times over the past few weeks and months here, our astute butler here and the guard that we keep on hand here at the villa have managed to apprehend various figures who were attempting to make their way into the quarters where our children sleep. And we found that they were associated with a cult that worshipped a demon lord, and we fear that they have some foul machinations that they wish to enact upon our children.
What if we just took your kids for you and kept them safe? Would that help?
Well, as easy as that would be in terms of this, I'm afraid I don't know how safe they would be able to stay. The demon lords, they're a powerful bunch and have powers that we mere mortals even scarcely imagine. I don't know how much longer we'll be able to keep them safe if their followers are so intent on bringing them to whatever it is they are wanting to do to them. But all the cultists that we have managed to stop so far, they always seem to come armed and dangerous with ritual blades and books of dark spells that we wish not to speak of. We had them burned. We do not wish to keep them here in the villa for fear of what dark portenses might be associated with them. But we've been able to acquire some information amongst all of these dealings. We have good connections here in the city, and we believe we may have found where these cultists may be operating out of. And if you would be willing, we would greatly appreciate you taking a look into the matter and, if need be, trying to stop them however you can.
Like murdering them.
I mean, you could put it that way, yes, but if their intent is to take our children and do unspeakable acts to them, kill them even for some dark ritual, I mean, is it really murder preventing the death of innocents?
Do you have a name for this cult? Or even just the name of the demon lord that they worship?
Yes, we do have some information in that regard. They are a cult that follows the demon lord Yinogu, who is a demon lord that rules over the gnoll-type creatures that you often find out in the wilds. But there are, of course, other members of society that have taken to his allure, his power, his bestial nature, and seek to gain something of it. But we believe that they operate out of a small house in the village just below the cliff of Waterdeep, in Undercliff Village. One of my informants was able to track one that had escaped out into that area.
I believe we would be willing to look into it.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with finding these people who wish to harm your children and murdering them for you.
Good. That puts my heart at ease. I am glad to hear it. Well, of course, there's the matter of payment for your services. From what I have heard, you From what I have heard, you recently became the owners of the manor, yes? I assume there is quite a bit of work to be done, so I've heard and seen. My father used to actually frequent that tavern back in the day, when it was in its heyday. And for the sake of his line, I would be more than willing to assist you in getting it back into service in any way that I can.
Yes, the building was quite decrepit when we took ownership of it.
Yes. Well, given the condition of the building, Willifort told me it looked like you were having some good work done so far from the local craftsmen in the area, which is good to hear. But how much left do you feel that you are still needing to be back into business?
I would probably be carrying this around, but we have a thing, right? That
Yeah, we
I can't remember the name of the map or the image, but we have a list, right? That,
Yes, we do. Let me get that for you, actually. Just pop this up here.
repairs. Okay.
Yep.
I'll pull it out, and the things that are crossed off are the things that are done, right?
Correct. The things that are
Okay.
crossed off are done.
Yeah, so we have like 12, like, wait, no, 950.
Yeah.
So my socially inept self will pull this thing out, and I'll just start reading it off, and I'll say, the Carpenters Guild needs to perform some roof repairs. The Colors and Plumbers Guild needs to fix some water damage and plumbing. That's going to be the most expensive bit here. We need to pay the dung sweepers to begin hauling all of the refuse that Mix spews. The chandlers need to replace all of our fixtures with something a little less garish. And then, of
Sayara
course-
reaches over and pauses him and says, I think what my companion is trying to answer is that we owe about 1,000 gold pieces left on repairs.
Yes, sorry.
Mitoro kind of nods and says, Yes, that is reasonable. I'll tell you what. If you're able to save my children here from some dark fate, I would be happy to pay that and then some to get you up and running. Because, I mean, of course, beyond the repairs, you're going to need a little bit to, get your business in order and supplies for, just general day-to-day. What say you to 2,000 gold pieces for the rescue of my children's lives?
I think
His
that
name's
sounds more than
Castellanter,
fair.
right?
Yes.
Lord Castellanter, 2,000 gold pieces. Well, I would say that sounds fair as long as we only have to murder 20 cultists or less for you. But I do feel that while you are asking us to keep your children safe, we are talking about murder here. Perhaps if we have to murder a significant number of people for you, we may need to come and discuss with you paying for, help or someone to talk to after something like that. There may be additional expenses, you understand.
And he kind of leans back in his chair and says, Yes, that is understandable. I mean, as far as I am aware, they are a small band, at least. I don't believe they have a large number of forces. But if it comes to that, if you run into too much trouble out there in Undercliff, we can certainly discuss further terms.
All right. Well, did you want proof of the deaths? Personally, I like to collect eyeballs, but if you want like fingers or heads or tongues, I'm more than happy to bring them back.
The lady kind of gasps at this and looks rather horrified. And
I apologize.
Vittorio kind of a little flash of frustration kind of flashes across his face from up there and says, Please, my children and wife are here at the table. We've discussed dark things enough with them present. I'm sure they don't need to hear the grisly details.
Yes, of course. I will sort the proof out on my own.
Well, if there's a matter of proof, of course, the cultists that we have I managed to apprehend before. The robes that they wear, they all had an emblem sewn into them. So if you manage to, bring the emblems from those cloaks that they assumed they would have, that would certainly be proof enough for me.
I will nod my head.
Alright. So with that out of the way, Toro kind of cheerfully taps his hands on the table and says, "Well, with that sorted, let us continue with our meal here and on to lighter things, of course." And he kind of steers the conversation back into a kind of a more general small talk direction.
Away from eyeballs.
Yes, away from the eyeballs and the body parts.
Is the meatloaf good?
Let's see.
If they're serving meatloaf, that
Well,
Blossom is not eating.
well, there's much more than just meatloaf on this table. Meatloaf would just be one of the dishes among many. But for those of you that did bother to have some of the meatloaf, it was quite good. The spicing in it was quite exquisite.
Would
I'll
you
eat
say that they
multiple
used
servings.
almond meal in it?
Did what?
Did they use almond meal in it?
No, they did not. Mix does not inflate like a balloon, so he is okay.
That's slightly disappointing.
I feel like half the party wants to kill Mix and the other half just has no opinion.
So,
You know, I was so fine with Mix until he wanted to take the ivory door.
always a good sign. Always a good sign.
An elephant never forgets.
Gonna say with what this guy's paying us, it makes Fedora look worthless.
Yes.
Well, it is now. I destroyed it.
Worthless before you destroyed it.
All right. So you managed to have a pretty uneventful rest of the dinner here at the Castle Hunter household. He does, after dinner, kind of take you on a short little tour around at least the main floor here, showing you some of the various rooms, the library and music room, and some of the other things they fancy themselves with, noble things, rich people stuff. And as the evening wears on, he kind of motions to the butler, who guides you back out to the carriage waiting in the yard, and he is happy to see you off. It seems like he may sleep a little better tonight, knowing that someone is out there for his kids.
So the place that he told us these cultists are, it's in Waterdeep, right?
It is outside of Waterdeep. It is just below the cliff that Waterdeep sits on. Let me actually get you the map as to where this is located.
Is it like a known building type thing, or is it more like something in cliffs?
It's a village. So if you look at this map here that I just shared, Undercliff Village is a small village just below Waterdeep, because Waterdeep kind of sits up on this large cliff. So
Okay, I understand.
yeah, it's like the whole eastern side of Waterdeep is a pretty sheer drop, where the wall ends. And below that, there is, various farms, a lot of the very kind of peasant folk kind of make their way out here farming and various things. And Undercliff Village is kind of a rural community that is kind of a central area for a lot of the kind of peasant farmers in this area below Waterdeep that provide the city with a lot of food. So they kind of are farming, animal husbandry. Travelers pass through there, of course, on their way up to the main city. There's a pretty large training camp nearby that you can see on the map there, the marching grounds that the city guard uses. It's kind of their training camp just below the city there. And there's some other things around as well. But for the most part, pretty rural town. From what you've heard, you just know that there's a lot of farming out there. But yeah, it's just below the city, so you'll have to find your way out there. And it looks like the best way to get... Let me see. Let me look at my full map here and see how you actually get down there. It's tricky to tell with this pieced up map.
When should we go investigate this? Should we do it at night? Should we do it in the morning? What do you think?
I would say doing it in the morning makes more sense so we can prepare to travel.
I
Since
agree.
We will need to leave the city.
I will speak to some associates and see what I can find out about Undercliff Village. I'll excuse myself and go to... I don't know if in Waterdeep it's called the Is It Guild, but I'll go speak with my guild.
Mm-hmm.
One of my background things gives me a basic knowledge of structures and buildings, including the stuff behind the walls, and then allows me to find blueprints of specific buildings.
Okay.
That give me stuff. The access isn't unlimited. It says your access to such information isn't unlimited, and if obtaining or using the information gets you in trouble with the law, the guild does not shield you. But I guess what Boo would try and go is try and get a basic layout of the village's buildings, and he would probably seek to get a blueprint of the biggest one, suspecting that's where they would need to go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me see here. And see what I can find out. So, in terms of blueprint stuff, because you don't really have any names of places or particular targets of places right now. But at least from what you can find, the largest structure that's down there in Undercliff Village is, probably the one of the main market buildings in the market square. There are a couple of noble families that have estates down there. That have, pretty decently sized villas, maybe not quite as ornate as the Castellanters did, but there's some of those that are down there, and some other kind of medium-ish noble houses. But for the most part, most of the rest of it is fairly small and rural. There's just a few upper-class people that have, kind of made their way out there with some trades that are kind of in that area. One of the estates is they made their money training horses for the City Watch, and so they have an estate out there with their ranch. And the other main noble that lives out there has lots of dealings with kind of overland trade outside of Waterdeep. So the goods going from Waterdeep to the rest of the realm. So he has his estate out there as well. But other than that, you may need to get down into Undercliff yourself and try to see if anybody has heard any, whisperings.
Makes sense. I'll share that with the...
Okay. Jenks did also come back. So, like, when you guys returned home, Jenks was there and did have some information from Mert as well, who, would be interested in lending money to you all. Of course, there'd be interest on that. I mean, he is a money lender after all. But he says if you are interested in some sort of loan of some kind, he is more than happy to arrange a meeting with one of the banking guild to get that set up. So, but, given this job, that may not be necessary, so. But that is up to you guys.
I don't incur debts for anything but knowledge, so I'm not interested in working with a moneylender. I would rather murder some people for some lordlings and earn my keep that way.
Yeah, it does sound like a good time.
All right. Well, I think at this point, this would probably be a good spot to take a quick break before we get into any other business. So let's go ahead and take a quick break for, 5 or 10 or whatever, and bio whatever else, and then we'll come back and try to find out a little more what's going on down in Undertown.
Cool.
All right, we're back. Sweet. So, when was it that you all were planning on heading out in Undercliff? I mean, it is, down below Waterdeep, so it'll take a little bit to get out there. Because to get down there, because of the sheer cliff, you basically have to go all the way down to the river gate of Waterdeep and Trades Ward, and kind of make your way down the hill from there, and then kind of up to the north, up Undercliff Way towards Undercliff Village. So it'd probably take you, the better part of a day to kind of make your way through the city and down there. Like, as the crow flies, it's not super far, but because of the way the city is structured, it's kind of a decent little jaunt to get out there.
I think we'd probably like get, whatever we needed sorted in the evening and then leave in the morning.
Okay.
I think that's what we were talking about.
Sure. All right. Sounds good. All right. So, you all, gather your things and, gather your party before venturing forth and make your way out of the manor into town. As the Castellanders have given you, some information that they knew about Undercliff, that assumedly there was some sort of base for these cultists down there, but seems there's some more you'll have to find out. But you make your way down the high road, through the morning crowds and the market, cluttering and the hustle and bustle of the city as you go through. And you take the high road all the way down to the River Street in the Trades Ward, and make your way out through the large river gate. And you find yourself stepping out of the walls of Waterdeep for the first time in a little while, at least. You're up on this, right now, just out of the river gate. You're kind of still up on the cliff that Waterdeep is situated upon. You have this just absolutely gorgeous view out over the farmland, and kind of out and beyond into where it gets into more of the wilds, out beyond the more civilized area here. But as the morning sun's coming up over the east, it's probably like maybe 9 a.m. or so by the time you guys get down here. So the sun is a little higher than the horizon now, but casting this gentle light across the countryside here. And you make your way down from the river gate. There's kind of a winding path that goes down the cliff, or at least this kind of descending hill from the cliff. It's still fairly steep, since they have to do these switchbacks. But eventually you find yourself down in kind of the general elevation of the terrain around Waterdeep proper. And you take a few hours to head up Undercliff Way. Along the way, you pass quite a few different kind of trade carts making their way to and from the city. Many of them carrying various, vegetables and farm goods to take up into the markets and to the restaurants and various businesses that are up in the city itself. It's quite a busy street out here, even though you're kind of out in the open in the countryside. It still seems to bustle with quite a bit of traffic, both foot from your people like yourselves, and from the various farmers and tradesmen making their way to and fro. But you do at last make your way to Undercliff Village proper. It's probably about maybe 3 or 4 in the afternoon by the time that you guys kind of make it to the village itself. You come up the road to the south of it, and you can see there's kind of this lovely little lake just next to this kind of cluster of buildings and homes, and kind of a small community, but they seem to be a fairly robust community for their size. There's more people kind of trading out in the streets their various goods. It's almost like the village is kind of one large farmer's market almost. They all seem to be trading and bartering with each other for things here, and the livelihood and out here in the small village. But there seems to be a lot of camaraderie and community around here. It seems like a kind of a nice little village, a little bit of a different vibe than up on the big city on the hill. But yeah, it's about mid-afternoon as you guys are kind of coming in here among all this.
Mix looks for an alchemy shop.
All right. The Mix kind of heads off, kind of looking to see if there's any traders out here with anything of that kind of wares. What about the rest of you?
Zyara's just kind of looking around. She can't actually remember the last time she left Waterdeep.
Okay. Just kind of more of like taking in the kind of sights and smells of the, you know, as countryside as this is. I mean, it's still pretty close to a large city, but it's definitely a lot more country than you've been in for quite some time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, as you guys are kind of walking around, you know, maybe pausing here and there to look at the various stalls. I mean, most of the stuff here is, you know, kind of farm goods of various kinds. You know, fruits, vegetables, baked goods, meats, things like that. They don't seem to have too much in the way, like, you don't see too many little shops or little stands in the way of, like, wares. I mean, you maybe see a few that have things that are more in the line of, like, farm equipment or, you know, kind of simple house goods, things like that. But for the most part, most of the little stands here seem to be foodstuffs.
Mix heads back to the party frustrated.
Yeah, sadly not too many alchemy things out here. There may have been a few shops that had, you know, herbs or things like that, but, you know, more of herbs for the culinary variety than of an alchemical variety. So, not too much luck in that department.
Any dead horses around for Mix to beat? Kidding. Boo is probably, like, looking around for something suspicious, like anything suspicious, but I think Boo is intelligent enough not to, like, ask around. Yet.
Okay. And just from your go ahead and roll and we'll do a perception check just to see if you kind of see anything around in the crowds. Excuse me. Okay. So, Boo, as you all are kind of making your way, kind of as a loose group through the market here, and you're not staying super close to each other, but you're still just kind of, you know, within eyesight. And Boo, I mean, you are kind of trying to keep an eye out for anything that sticks out, you know, any robes that stick out or anything else that seems shady. But you don't really seem to see anything out of what you would expect from this kind of place. I mean, any of the shops that you kind of get close to are pretty congenial. You know, just kind of friendly, down home country folk, happy to sell whatever it is that they're selling. But, you know, most of the people that you've seen around seem to be a pretty regular mix. You know, just kind of like yourselves, some city folk, some country folk. You know, maybe a few here and there that are dressed a little bit nicer, but otherwise nothing super out of the ordinary.
Mix asks the first person who looks even remotely, like, suspicious at all. Like, anybody that looks out of place, Mix walks right up to him and... Well, I mean, does he find anybody like that, I guess?
I mean, the people that would probably look the most out of place would be probably the ones that are looking, you know, anybody either in employ or members of, you know, the couple of noble families that are out here. They're dressed a little finer than everyone else. But they don't, like, look particularly suspicious. They just, I mean, They look like, you know, maybe what would be normal up in Waterdeep proper. They wouldn't look too odd walking around up there, but you know, among all these people with their kind of farm worn clothes, maybe a little sweat stained, a little dirty, just from the hard work of the fields. You know, they maybe stick out a little bit with a, you know, something a little more tailored and refined. But I mean, it seems like people know them. You know, the shops that you see them walk up to, you know, kind of greet them cheerfully. They're just another member of the community down here, it seems. But nothing suspicious about them. Just maybe a little more well off.
Guys, I don't. Boo says to everyone, I don't know. I don't really see anything around here. What do you guys think we should?
In my experience, when in doubt, go to a tavern.
Yep, people talk at taverns.
All right. So you know, as you've been wandering around in the streets here, you've seen, you know, various businesses and things around, but you do see, somewhat near the center of town, there appears to be a tavern. Let's see here. You know, as you're walking up to it here, like it's in the middle of town and it's back, like the tavern is on the side of the road closest to the lake. So like the back of the tavern kind of, you know, opens out towards the little lake that's just south of town. And the sign that hangs above the tavern reads, "The Drunk Duck."
I love that tavern name. There's a tavern, guys. We should go in.
Okay.
We go in.
All right. So you all make your way into the tavern here. And, you know, it's, you know, mid-afternoon, you know, maybe getting into, you know, around dinner time or so. So there's a fair number of people around in here. You know, the bartender behind the bar seems to be a fairly portly halfling. But his, you know, cheeks are bright and rosy and cheery as you walk in. He kind of beams a smile in your direction as you walk in and says, "Welcome, friends, welcome. What can I get for you?"
Milk.
Milk. Well, we don't get too many requests for that in here, but I can certainly source some up for you. And he kind of heads into the back, and you, a few moments later, you hear a moo or two from out back. And he eventually comes back down a little later with a kind of frothy mug of seemingly very freshly squeezed milk.
Mix orders a beer.
Alright.
Zara just requests tea.
Okay.
Jinku will have beer as well.
Blossom will have a beer as well.
All right. And so he kind of goes and gets you your various drinks and says, "Well, it'll be 5 copper for the lot of you."
Mix will pay for it.
All right. Mick shells
He's
out.
feeling very generous.
Mick shells out the 5 copper for your drinks. And, you know, the bartender kind of goes back to cleaning a few things behind the bar. Around the bar, in terms of the patrons, and you see, you know, kind of a variety of folk. You know, most of them fairly homely. You know, there's a couple sitting at the bar. There's a gentleman kind of on his own at a table, kind of an older gentleman. You see some a couple tieflings over in kind of a booth over against the wall, and a few other kind of halflings in just kind of various places. Not maybe not necessarily all at like the same table, but they're still kind of having a conversation across several tables. You know, maybe they're neighbors or something. You can hear them kind of talking about various works going on with their farms and how things are going and the weather and kind of general shit shooting, that sort of stuff.
Nothing out of the ordinary that we're seeing.
In terms of the people in here, no.
Anybody who looks like they're having a lot of fun, having a real good.
Well, I mean the three halflings that are all at separate tables but still conversing with each other seem to be having a pretty good time. I mean, it seems like they may be a drink or two in, or just kind of happily just talking about regular old farm business stuff. And maybe cracking some jokes at the expense of some other people in town. Neighbor did this and that amusing thing. Bursting out into little laughs here and there, but they seem to be having a good time.
Like when they're in the middle of one of those, like where they're kind of ragging on someone, Boo will approach them, completely acting like he knows whoever they're ragging on, and kind of insert himself into the conversation and be, say like, oh yeah, that old Farmer John, can I buy you guys a drink? You look like you're having some fun, and I'd just like to buy some people, a couple drinks if they'd like.
And they both kind of turn as you kind of slide your way into this conversation, and they seem more than happy to have you along. One of them kind of exclaimed in your direction, "Ah, another friend of John, is it? Well, as much of a buffoon as he can be, he makes for good company, and will happily have a drink on you if you're offering to pay."
Of course. Have several. I'll buy them a couple rounds.
Hey!
With Mix's money.
Mix's money.
Nah, I'll spend. I don't want to get too liberal. I'll spend little back.
Alright.
I'll just plop a. He's like a go. I still, even though I'm still struggle sometimes to quickly envision the concept. But I imagine a gold piece would probably buy a couple rounds, and then some maybe.
I mean, around here, like a gold piece would get you a fuck ton of rounds.
Well, we got.
I will set a gold
3
coin on the
beers
counter then.
for 5 copper. So.
Yeah, you guys all got drinks for 5 copper, so a gold piece is gonna.
Perfect.
That's a lot. It's like
I'll set it on the counter and tell them to keep them coming.
All right. Well, the proprietor kind of, as you hand this gold piece over, his eyes kind of light up, and he says, "Yes, certainly, more than willing to serve you here." And he kind of shouts out to the house, "Well, it seems we have a generous visitor. Drinks on everyone, for as much as you like." And so he begins kind of serving up drinks to the now slightly drunker and happier patrons of the bar. A few others, kind of coming through the door too, and the barkeeper just as happy to just serve up some drinks. Seems you covered quite a bit here with this gold piece that you've dropped. I mean, you're pretty close to the source where a lot of this stuff's made, so it comes pretty cheap out here.
So after doing that, I'll sidle up to the rest of the group and I'll say, "Well, I've plied them with alcohol. Somebody needs to talk to them because, well, me."
Anyone step up to the challenge of talking to the imbibed?
Absolutely not.
No, neither Jinku's like pounding drinks.
Blossom is
Jinku
as
is
well.
taking
All right.
advantage of all of this.
One of the farmers here has like taken notice of you, Jinku, and kind of pulls up a stool next to you here in the bar and says, "You could get a lot of work out here with the muscles on you. Wow."
She kind of just looks at him like, what the heck, and doesn't say anything and keeps drinking.
Like this guy just kind of just keeps going. He just like impressed. Like he starts like comparing you to like a draft horse. Is like you just seem so powerful, and wow, it'd be, man, if I had help like you, I'd be set and be getting so much done. And he just seems like just completely amused at this large elephant person that is here, and he just can't get over the fact that he thinks it'd be so wonderful to have help of someone of your size.
As soon as he starts comparing me to a draft horse, I'm like, sir, you're making me uncomfortable, and I walk away from him.
All right, and he seems like a little too drunk to notice you leave. He kind of keeps going on. He's just kind of enamored almost. But he doesn't really notice you walk away and move to another part of the bar to continue drinking.
I'll walk up to my group and be like, watch out for that guy. He thinks we're horses.
Well, Sarah, you seem to be the one without any alcohol in you. unless that's some hard tea.
I don't know. I may have spiked my tea.
You may be a little happy.
She never said what kind of tea.
True.
You can make hot toddies with tea.
There you go. Just to give you kind of a rundown again of some of the people in here. I mean, there's the several halflings that Boo had initially hit up that were conversing across several tables. There's kind of an older gentleman on his own that just seems to be kind of cooling down after a day of work. There's a couple tieflings kind of conversing in a booth over in the corner. There's the guy at the bar that was kind of not quite sure if he was hitting up Jinku or just was stupidly impressed, and a few other kind of random farmer folk.
Mix walks up to the halflings and says, "Excuse me, my name is Mix Liara. I live in Waterdeep, and you can see my friends over there. I believe you know my friend Boo, who bought drinks for everyone. Tell me, have you heard of any demon cults in this town?"
God.
And the three halflings are both like they kind of blink slowly at this. Perhaps a little too deep in the mugs, and they're like, "Demon cults? Boy, that'd be scary. But in a little town like this, I don't know what they'd want with us. We're just bumpkin folk. If there's demons going on, they'd want Waterdeep, not us at Undercliff."
Zaire is gonna go up to the barkeep
Uh-huh.
and she's going to, well, I'm going to assume she's finished her first cup of tea.
Yeah.
And ask him for another drink.
Yeah.
And while he's getting that for her, she's going to basically just kind of try and chat him up about the town itself.
Sure. So as he's kind of busying himself making this next drink for you here, he is kind of telling you about the town and some of the various specialties that the town makes. He mentions that there is he highly recommends visiting the Snow Beetle Orchard and Meadery, which is owned and run by the Snow Beetle Halflings. Which I guess he kind of points out that one of the 3 that Boo had talked to here is one of the Snow Beetles and helps out over at that meadery. And some of the alcohol that they sell here at the bar comes from there. But he says he says if you haven't been to Undercliff before, to check out the meadery. They have a lovely gift shop, and you can pick your own fruit when it is in season, which not quite this time of year, but if you came back later on, then you'd certainly have your pick of the trees to gather your own basket.
Well, that sounds interesting. Pray tell, where would be good to stay if we were to stay here overnight?
Well, we have a number of inns here in Undercliff. We have many travelers that come through on their way up to the city on the hill. We certainly have rooms here as well, of course. I mean, you'd be more than covered already with what your friend has sent over earlier, if you wished.
Yes, I'm sure we would be. Speaking of my friend, you see, he's been talking about wanting to buy a quaint little house in the country. I don't suppose you know of any currently empty or abandoned buildings in the village?
And he kind of leans back a little and then thinks for a moment. He kind of, like with one of his hands, he kind of plays with one of the curls in his hair a little bit as he's thinking. And he says, well, now that you mention it, there is a farm just to the western end of town. It's been empty for a little while. The widow who lived there for quite some time passed away, maybe a few months back. And they've been trying to, or some of her children have been trying to sell the farm. They aren't too interested in the business anymore. But I believe it is up for sale. I don't think there's anyone out there right now. You might want to inquire in the town center if you're interested, or the town hall here if you're interested in purchasing. They may have more details about whatever arrangements need to be made for that, but that's the only one that comes to mind at the moment. Otherwise, business is pretty booming down here. I mean, supplying the needs of Waterdeep is, a business that has no end with all the people up there. So, oftentimes, things are pretty well set for most of the families down here in the village. But yes, her children had other things they wanted to do. Most of them live in Waterdeep now, and the rest are, I believe, off somewhere else in the realm, but they had no need of farming anymore. It seemed they'd had their fill and wanted a more exciting life. But that'd be where I'd start.
Well, thank you very much for the information and the drink. If I choose to perhaps read some fortunes for any of your customers later. Would you mind if I set up at a table?
No, no, by all means. We have had quite an array of visitors in our, time here at the Drunk Duck. So, by all means, feel free to fortune tell. We've certainly had your kind before.
All right, thank you very much. So I'm gonna go back to the rest of my party.
Okay.
And I'm gonna mention that there is an abandoned farm currently to the west of the village that we may want to check out to see if there's anyone perhaps using it for the cult activities.
All right. The rest of you doing anything else? Trying to chat up anybody, other patrons?
Boo is probably like jumped in with Mix and apologized for his behavior and talked about how he's like obsessed with demons and is obviously incredibly drunk because he's a lush and doesn't know what he's talking about. And then I will lead him away.
All right.
And then I will. Oh, is there anybody? I guess no. I don't need to know anything else.
Okay. All right. So what do you all want to do from here? I mean, you have had a good number of drinks here. I mean, you do have a room here at the inn you've more than covered for if you wanted to stay the night. But you, of course, also have this possibly a lead with this empty farmhouse to check on.
I don't mind skulking around in the dark.
Might be the best time to do it.
Well, maybe we should go take a look at that before retiring. What do you guys think?
I'd be up for that.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So you all head back out into the town. Like you've, been here in the tavern for a little while. It's gotten a little dimmer. It's kind of in the twilight hours right now. It gets a little darker, a little faster down here below the cliff of Waterdeep, since the city is high above and the horizon ends a little sooner because of it. But there's still a little light kind of emanating from above the outline of the city walls high above you here. But you head west out of the town, kind of a little ways back down the road you came in on, and then there's a road that kind of branches off to the west. And you make a little way down the road, and for the most part as you go along, it's pretty easy to tell which houses are, which farms are actively in use. Like you pass by a few that are well lit. Their fields are full of crops that are starting to grow. I mean, it's still springtime at the moment, so nothing is too tall. But you can tell that the fields are tilled and cared for. But eventually you start coming to some fields that definitely seem a little more fallow. They clearly haven't been tilled, at least in this season. You can see kind of various weeds springing up in some places. And you see a little ways back from the road, maybe a good like quarter of a mile back from the road, you see a farmhouse structure kind of back behind many of these fields that seem somewhat untended. As far as you can guess, this seems like this may be the farmhouse that the tavern master had alerted you to.
Shall we investigate? Carefully, Mix. Don't stumble over things like you usually. Shut up, Boo. I don't like you.
It's so real.
Need to come up with different names or different voices. This'll be Mix's voice, and this'll be Boo's. So it's about a quarter mile back.
Yep. Yeah.
Let's approach it a little bit, but carefully.
Okay. So you kind of make your way. Like, are you guys coming up? Like, there does seem to be like a, like a small, road path type thing that leads back to it. Are you guys coming up that, or are you guys trying to make your way across this fallow field to get to it?
Boo would recommend. Actually, Boo's is like, I don't know, the Izzet Guild's a city guild, so I think Boo would just follow the road. That's what he's always known. That's what he would.
Okay. So you make your way up the road to this farmhouse. And when you get, maybe about, about 500 yards out from the farmhouse, go ahead, everybody roll a perception check for me. Okay. So Zara and Boo and Mix, as you're kind of approaching this house here, you kind of see very faintly in the twilight here, and it's only for a moment, but you feel like you see the flickering of a candle pass, behind one of the windows in the farmhouse, and then disappear. So it's only for a moment, like somebody was walking by holding like a candle on a little holder or something like that, and then went out of sight.
Guys, I saw a light, and I think it's haunted. Maybe there's ghosts in there. No, there isn't. Mix, shut up.
Seeing this and knowing that they are trying to find a demon lord cult, Zyara is going to cast Detect Magic.
Okay.
Just
What
in
is...
case they have anything magical in terms of traps or something like that.
Okay, just around you here. Okay.
It senses the presence of magic within 30 feet of me and lasts up to 10 minutes.
Okay, so that's just kind of... Does that like follow you? Like, does that just like detect it around you for like 10 minutes while you walk around? Is that how that works?
From how I've read it, it's just like a 30 feet radius around me.
Okay.
And anything that I can sense magic on, I'll be able to see a faint aura around the creature or object.
Okay. So you like from where you are right now, you don't seem to see anything in particular. But as you get closer to the farmhouse, like, are you guys all, like, given that what some of you just saw, like, are you guys taking a little stealthier at this point, or how are you guys approaching now? Given
Zyara is definitely being a lot more stealthy as she approaches the house.
okay,
Yeah, Blossom will go the stealthy route too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. So you all are kind of making your way closer to the house here, and you know there's various bushes and things along this pathway into the house. So you kind of make your way, kind of going back and forth between cover as best you can with the group of you, and you eventually make it up to a decently large bit of scrub going on, fairly close to the house. And you notice an aura kind of around what seems to be some kind of creature. You can't tell what it is, since it seems to be behind pretty much directly behind the front door of the house. But the aura that it gives off is one of the conjuration school.
Okay. So I don't recognize the creature. I just.
Well, you can't see it.
I
It's behind a door.
Oh, okay.
You just see that there's some aura of, you can tell it's an aura around some sort of, being of some kind. Just from the kind of the shape of the aura, but you just know it's conjuration school. So
And that's
conjuration.
behind the door of the house.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to very quietly tell Boo, since I know he's one of the other main magic users, that there is a magical creature behind the door that I believe was conjured.
That could be dangerous indeed. But it could also be as simple as a familiar. I'll pat my homunculus on the head. Maybe we should see what he sees.
It does make it more likely that we've found the cult that we're looking for.
Yes. So there's the door. Is there other doors to this building or just one?
Sure. So in terms of the structure of this building, so this farmhouse is pretty simple. It's one story farmhouse. And you see there's the front door, which you guys are kind of pretty much right in front of, just behind some bushes. There's some windows on either side. At least from the angle that you saw the house when coming up the road. There's probably also a door at the back that kind of opened out into a little area with what used to be a chicken coop and things on the back side of the house, and then some other windows throughout the other sides. But otherwise, it seems to be a fairly plain, kind of old style farmhouse.
Mick suggests knocking on the door and seeing if anybody's home.
Oh, look, Mix. I think I see some alchemical herbs in the fields.
Jeez.
So what do you guys think? How should we approach this? Should we go in the door, and if people get violent, just respond with violence, or should we try and sneak our way in here?
Well,
It's-
basically our whole goal is to kill them anyways, right?
If of course this could just be a squatter or something, maybe a hedge wizard with a an alarm on the door. Who knows? Oh no, alarm is aggravation. Never mind.
What
It
if we set up
is
a
the
trap
cult,
around the door, and then one of us could throw a rock at the door and see what emerges?
If it is the cult, then yes, our goal is to take them out. But it might also be prudent to know how many we're going up against, or at least have a vague idea.
Right, that's a good thought, and I think Blossom's plan would really probably provide some good insight on that. I mean, if it's just a squatter or something, and just be one person coming out, but if it's the cult, then we'll see. Because they were wearing a certain symbol on them, right?
That's what he told us, at least.
Alright, Blossom, what kind of trap do you think we should set?
Have a couple people on one side of the door, a couple people on the other. I'll throw a rock and hit the door, and you guys tackle whatever comes out.
Do we have to tackle it? I don't like touching people. Can I just kill? Oh, yeah, we need to make sure that they're not. Boo and Mix will settle down on one side of the door.
Okay.
Jinku will go on the other.
Okay. So are you like... So it was you were like chucking a rock at the door or something?
Blossom was.
Okay. Alright. So, you guys get yourselves situated on either side of the door here. And, Blossom tosses a rock, which kind of tinks against the wood of the door here. And as that strikes, you kind of hear some shuffling from behind the door. And the door kind of slowly is pushed open as... And you both of you on either side of the door are kind of pressed against the walls here. And you see this kind of slowly walk out of the door, like not even like really registering that there is a door there. It's just kind of walking against the door, pushing it open.
Oh.
And coming out of the front of this house. And you can kind of hear this kind of crackling as, it's walking. You can kind of hear this kind of low kind of rasp kind of coming out of its mouth. This one doesn't have like a big spiky thing like that. It's just the creature itself. So not quite like the picture here. But yeah, it's just kind of like walking against the door to open it. Like, it doesn't seem like the door really has much of a latch. It just kind of pushes it open as it moves forward. And kind of stands, kind of dumbly in the door here, looking straight ahead.
Cool.
What do y'all do?
That's all the confirmation Boo need. He will he'll make Mix cast a spell. He says, Mix, you should start destroying that thing, as he tries to slink away. And Mix will cast Eldritch Blast at it.
Okay, 1 second, let me get this guy into... sheet here. Okay, should be in there now. Everybody go ahead and roll initiative here. I don't think this will take particularly long. This is just the one guy, but we'll go ahead and roll initiative anyways. Excuse me. All right. So we will have a round of surprise before this guy gets to do anything, assuming he lives that long, which he probably won't. But I guess it actually starts off with you, Boo. Looks like.
Boo will cast Toll of the Dead, and I figure he was probably like within 5-10 feet of the door. He will try and move away from the building a ways as he's doing.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Toll of the Dead is 60 feet, so like he'll move his move speed,
Okay.
30 feet away, and then cast that.
All right. All right, and that seems to take effect here. All right, so your little bell kind of chimes out here. It sounds somewhat lost in the open air of the countryside, but it does seem to affect this creature, which kind of brings up its hands a little bit, seemingly reacting in some sort of pain, but doesn't seem to make much noise aside from the cracking of its bones. It seems to try to turn a little bit, as if to go back inside, but you can't really do much else at the moment. Anything else on your turn, Boo?
That's it.
All right, Blossom. You're on the side. Well, I guess you were probably still kind of out in front, chucking the rock at it, but you're still pretty close. Yeah. What are you doing?
Gonna run up and smash it with my axe.
All right, smash away.
How do I target this thing?
Go in the combat tracker.
If you do it in the combat tracker, because right now it isn't on. I don't have like a map for this particular person, but yeah, just target it there and roll. All right, so you come running up, swinging your great axe, and kind of slip a little bit on the kind of loose gravel in front of this house as the pathway, and miss your mark as you kind of skid past it a little bit. Anything else?
Nah, that'd be it.
Okay. So this creature turns, since you're, kind of tried to strike at it as you went past, and it tries to kind of bite at, there we go, at you, Blossom. And it manages to miss. And then it also kind of slowly turns and seems to try to make its way back into the house. It does make it past the threshold of the door, so it is inside, but it doesn't make it too far. What's Mix doing? Oh wait! I am sorry. I forgot that this was a whole round of surprise. That knoll did not do any of that. That knoll is still where it is. I forgot you guys had surprise. So none of that happened. He is still outside. Ignore me. Okay, Mix.
Do you guys remember him casting like elder or hex at any time? Does he have hex? I can't tell.
I don't remember him ever casting Hex.
Okay, he will just cast Eldritch Blast.
Okay. Yeah, he doesn't have Hex. He has Bane, but not Hex. That hits. Go ahead and roll damage on that. Alright, so this Eldritch Blast arcs out of Mix's hands here, striking this creature, and it kind of crumples to the ground and kind of almost instantly kind of dissipates a bit into kind of dust and kind of just assorted bones. Thankfully, it seems like this whole little encounter here didn't raise too much noise. You don't hear anything else happening from where you are. So it doesn't seem to have alerted anything else that you know of.
Jinku's gonna kind of motion to everybody to kind of step away from the house so we can talk. And when we're far enough away, she's gonna say, well, clearly we have confirmation of what we're looking for is here. How do we want to proceed?
We go in and murder everyone inside the house. Let's go.
but we don't know how many are in there.
I'm confident in your abilities, Jinku. Go on in ahead of me.
Well, I appreciate your confidence in me. I would like a little bit more knowledge than just knowing that I'm strong.
Fine. And Boo will
Bool, what?
disappear. I'll cast invisibility on myself and
Okay.
go inside the damn house.
Okay. Alright, let me get some stuff up here. Alright, so Boo, so you wander into the house. On this floor here as you walk in, it's a pretty plain, farmhouse, about as plain on the inside as it's seen from the outside. There's still some various furnishings around. They maybe seem a little outdated, but you can definitely tell that it was probably an older person that lived here before they died. But it is pretty sparse and picked over. You can clearly tell there's some, larger furniture pieces that are no longer here. Perhaps their children sold them off. But for the most part, this main floor doesn't look very lived in. You do see in the dust on the floor, there's definitely evidence of traffic leading from this front door here around, kind of towards the kitchen area of the house.
I will go, I'll carefully walk in and, look in the kitchen and see what I...
Okay. So when you go into the kitchen here, the kitchen also does seem pretty bare for the most part. And you do notice on one wall there appears to be a door that is slightly ajar, but from what you can see, seems to lead down some stairs to, perhaps a basement of some kind.
Okay. And if I stick on this floor, does it seem like there's any... If I'm careful, looking around, does it seem like there's anybody here, or do I hear anything? I'm not going to go in the basement. I'm just looking at the first floor to see if there's...
Sure.
any...
So in the first floor, at least, you check all the rooms in here. I guess there's not very many rooms to check. It's pretty simple. But you don't, see anything or anyone up on this floor. It seems like if there is anyone here, they're probably downstairs.
I'll step out, still invisible, and tell that all to the party. And volunteer to go down the stairs if you guys would like. I'd be more than happy to go down those stairs by myself if you guys would like to, but I would like you at least in the building and nearby.
Yeah,
you know that I
I'd be
am
okay with that.
Go down, see how many there are, see if you can identify the symbol. Make sure, this is the group we're looking for, because we haven't seen that symbol.
And, we could just position ourselves near the top of the stairs so we're ready if anything does come up.
Yeah, Zyar
Alright.
will be positioned at the top of the stairs.
Okay. So, Boo, you kind of gingerly push open this door to the basement. And you kind of see, looking down, it's just kind of some ramshackle wooden stairs leading downwards. Let me get you all a map here. So you come down these stairs, and this part of the basement seems a little more recently lived in than the rest of the house. You do, you notice some various, crates and things that seem to have some more recent foodstuffs in them. Maybe like an old bookshelf or two. And you notice that the basement here, it seems there was like the southeast corner, it seems used to be some kind of storage closet, but strangely in front of, or like kind of to the side of the door, to the kind of, kind of behind a little partition, there are various piles of like debris, like stone and stone and dirt and things piled up here outside of this storage room. Pretty decent sized piles too.
I will go upstairs and tell people that it looks like, as far as I can see, there's nothing right down there. I don't see anybody, but there's a storeroom and a bunch of piles. It seems like they're digging or something. I don't know. You guys should come down here. I mean, I'll go ahead, but if the bottom of the stairs is empty, come down here with me so that I don't die.
Yeah, Jinko will go with them.
Yeah,
Okay.
Zyra will head down as well.
Okay.
I'll head down as well.
Okay. For those of you that are down here at the bottom of the stairs, are you checking anything out in here at all in this basement room?
Yeah, Zyra is going to look around.
Okay. Go ahead and roll an investigation check for me, Sarah.
Jinku's just gonna, be
have to find
looking
my sheet.
around, looking for movement.
Sure. Jinku, in terms of like movement in here, you like aren't really seeing any movement in this part of the basement. You do of course note like the various piles of seemingly rubble from digging of some kind that are piled up in here that seem to have been pulled out from somewhere else. Zara, you look around and there are some various bookshelves around down here. Does seem to be a desk that seems more recently used. And you find a notebook of sorts. And it seems to be pretty kind of rough handwriting. It's a little difficult to read. But it seems to mention something about the children and them being needed for some sort of ritual to bring him. But you aren't quite sure what that refers to. And you do also find note, kind of hastily written in like a, kind of a margin of the notebook. That it says that the oldest is fallen.
In reference to the children, it seems?
Well, it's a note in the margin, so it might be in reference to anything.
Yeah.
Zyra is going to pocket the notebook.
Okay.
Is that the only thing I really saw that kind of like referenced the like the cult or what they're doing or anything?
Yeah, from what you could tell, like a lot of the books that are on this bookshelf seem to be ones that may have been here before already. From the older person who lived here before. They just need to be like general books on various farming things, maybe a couple of steamier than expected romance books, um, things like that.
Mix grabs those.
He's like, oh, dibs, mine.
But yeah, and those are like all on the shelf. Like the shelf still the bookshelf still seems like fairly dusty, like it hasn't been messed with. Like this notebook that you had seen here on this desk, like this desk seems to have been more recently used. Like it's not particularly dust covered, so someone was taking notes here.
Okay.
Jinku is gonna go closer to the piles of dirt and look over there.
Sure. So the piles of dirt are kind of in the southeast part of this room. And you can see, kind of looking back from what you can, it looks like the back corner of this basement has been dug out and kind of extends deeper into, some sort of room or cave or something. But it seems pretty recently broken. Like whoever, it was that lived here before doesn't seem to have either known this was here or like it seems like this was very recently dug out. Like the wall got busted down and they like dug their own little something back here under this house.
Okay. I will
Go
point that out
investigate
to the
that
group.
area.
Are you all
I
going or
can-
just Boo?
I can run up there for you, means that you still can't see me. As I whisper that, and like I'm walking around the room, being kind of arrogant about it.
Okay. So, Boo, you kind of wander in a little further here. And in here, you find, like a pretty rough hewn small room. In here, there seems to be like the remnants of, some kind of fire pit that may have been used to like do some cooking on. A few other various kind of crates of supplies and things. But all of this seems very freshly hewn out of the mostly dirt. I mean, there is some areas that are stone, but this is mostly a pretty rough, dug little hideout of sorts. And you also see it kind of extends to the south a little ways as well. And you also kind of hear, kind of softly, it's hard to make out, but you think you do hear some kind of chanting. You aren't able to understand what language it's in, but you kind of hear some in the distance.
I will go back and tell the group that I hear people back there and that we should prepare to go murder them. How far away does it seem like I hear it, I guess?
I mean, it doesn't seem too far. Like, it's a little echoey down here. Not like super echoey, so it doesn't seem like a very huge space. But like, it seems like it may be muffled a little bit just because there's a lot of dirt kind of muffling a lot of the sound. But they seem maybe, you would estimate, not more than 100 feet away.
Do you guys want me to go look further, or should we go murder these people? Sounds like they're chanting something, which can't be good with demon people.
Why don't you quickly go look and see how many there are?
Okay, I'll give you a sign if things get hairy.
Zaire is going to kind of trail behind him about like 10-15 feet
Okay.
close enough that she can keep an eye on him.
Well, you
but-
can't see him. He's invisible.
Well, okay.
I mean, you can try, but he is invisible, as he's so smugly stated.
She's going to trail behind him where she assumes he is.
Okay.
I will.
How about that?
Here's what I
Isn't
can
there-
do.
Isn't there dirt down here? Wouldn't he be leaving footprints?
Okay, that's true. You would be able to see little footprints in the dirt. So
Basically, she just wants to be close enough that she's there just in case, but far enough behind that if he makes some noise, she could hide if there's anyone around.
I'll hand her my lantern of revealing, and I will say, open the hood when you feel the time is right, and then we'll head down the hallway.
I don't remember what that does.
the lantern of revealing reveals things that are invisible within the lantern's light.
Ah, okay.
So you head down this hallway, and again you kind of see off to your left as you're coming through here. This kind of goes into another little kind of dead-end dugout corner, again with more kind of various supplies, things like that. And then, as you kind of look to your right, it extends into kind of another larger dead end. And in here is where you do see some figures. So let me get those for you here. Let me get you guys on here too.
I think Jinku would be trailing behind Zyara. Kind of the same idea of enough to see her, but far enough that, if something happens, can step back.
Okay. So Boo, so you look around the corner kind of into this room here, and you see, with their backs turned to you, there seem to be a couple of people in these kind of dark, at least in the light here, they just seem to be like black or near black robes, facing away from you towards the back of this larger room. These two at least appear to be human. You also see, there's a kind of a little kind of rough set of stairs going up to a raised area, and these stairs are just kind of made out of some wooden planks. In this raised area, you can see there is a circle of some kind inscribed on the ground. Assumedly, some sort of summoning circle or something of that sort, some sort of magic circle. And standing next to the foot of the stairs, also with its back turned to you, facing towards this circle, appears to be a knoll. And there is also a much larger knoll standing on the stairs, kind of directly between these two kind of small candelabra that they have on either side of these stairs. But it is pretty significantly heftier than the other knoll. It's kind of outfitted a lot more ruggedly. You can see a pretty... let's see here. You can see it has a pretty decently sized sword kind of strapped across its kind of arcing back. A pretty fierce looking guy, from what you can see from behind. They're all facing away from you towards the circle and chanting something in a language you don't understand.
Is it a magic circle?
It seems to be, yes.
I don't have that spell, but would I know, is there a way to disrupt this magic circle at all? To cause them some problems? To where, maybe I can at least guarantee that while we are getting murdered or doing murdering, there's not going to be a successful summoning.
Okay. I mean, from what you can tell from here, you aren't quite sure. Actually, go ahead. Go ahead and roll me an Arcana check. Actually, let's see. What you know. Okay. Like you aren't quite familiar with this particular branch of demonology. So you aren't quite sure what would be involved in whatever it is they're doing. Like you aren't entirely sure what it is they're doing, since you can't understand what they're chanting. So that kind of hinders a bit of your ability to figure out how you would even disrupt this, because you aren't even quite entirely sure what they're in the middle of.
Can I sneak up there without, like, bumping into anybody? I'm not going to try and mess it up, but I want to... It looks like it might be wide enough, but it might not, to, like, walk up those steps.
I mean, you could, like, the steps, like, the little ridge, the little raised area that it's on isn't very high. Like, the ledge that's around that ridge is maybe, like, 5 or 6 inches. Like, it's just kind of slightly raised over the rest. Like the steps there, like, as you get closer, the steps there more look like, actually, a series of boards. Like, they're almost kind of a ramp up to this little area. But I would say, yeah, you'd be able to, since you're still invisible, you'd be able to sneak up there and they wouldn't notice you. What are you trying to look at here? Or discern
The
here?
idea is that I would sneak up there, and then I left my familiar with the group, and
Yeah.
I would kind of have him, like, tug on Jinku's pants or something, so that she knows, she might know or might not. I don't know how she would interpret that, but he would kind of pull on her pants or whatever, and then I would say in my, like, I would like, in my loudest voice, while standing probably inside of this magic circle, I would shout, while remaining invisible, "Behold, I am come, kneel before my power."
Question.
Yeah.
Is Zyara able to see, like, the detail of the circle?
From where you're at, no. Like, you can see that there is a circle of some kind, but you can't really make out what is
Okay.
written on it from where you're
And
at.
I'm guessing I'd have to get a lot closer.
You would have to get a lot closer, yes.
Okay, never
And I don't
mind.
know if this is pushing it, but I may use, like, if it's... I think I should be able to do this. Use prestidigitation to snuff a couple candles out or something while I'm...
Yeah, you could do that, I'd say.
But that's what I do.
Okay. So if I'm understanding right, the plan. So, familiars tugging pant legs to get them to come to action. You're shouting stuff about being the coming of Christ in this summoning circle and snuffing out some candles. And yeah, so, like, supposedly in the confusion of this, you spring upon these guys, if I'm understanding right.
Basically, yeah. I'm trying to make them scared or think that something happened to keep me safe long enough that I don't...
And I think Jinku would take the tugging on her pants. She would understand that means we need to move forward, and I would move up by Zyara.
Okay. Alright. So, we'll go ahead and put that into action here then. And everybody... Let's have everybody go ahead and roll their initiative. So we get everybody in the tracker here. Okay.
Once Boo starts yelling, Sayara has stuff she's gonna add.
Okay.
So, I don't know if you want me to tell you that now, or...
Yeah, go ahead and tell me that now. Well, okay. Let's get some stuff happening here. So... Oh, hold on. Let me redrag these tokens in here from the combat tracker so they actually work properly.
That's silly.
Alright, so...
There's a trick to making them, like, auto-place for you. When you... I could show you how to do that, you know, in between games or something.
Okay. Okay, so... Janku feels the pants tugging. You guys are moving up. And, you know, you guys are kind of coming around the corner here, you know, still being a little quiet, you know, hearing the chanting. You guys can all kind of see these, you know, cultists here in the end of this here. You guys are all kind of blocking off this hallway here as you're grouping up. Boo, do your thing.
Behold, I am come. Kneel before my...
All right, so
I'm quaking.
So, and are you still you're still invisible when you do this?
Yeah, I think I'm intelligent enough to know that I'm probably not what they expect. So I'm gonna stay invisible and hope that convinces.
Okay, so you shout this out, and you said you were kind of like fucking with the candles too. Is that right? With the prestidigitation?
Yeah, I can use prestidigitation to snuff up to 3 candles at the same.
Okay, on these candelabras, there's probably like about a total of 5 candles across these candelabras. So you could snuff out 3 of them. Okay, so the candles snuff out. Boo shouts this out. Zara, what are you doing?
She's gonna cast Minor Illusion once.
Okay.
Make a really loud, like, booming noise.
Okay.
Almost like thunder. And then she's gonna cast it a second time after the sound is done to create, like, a column of flame illusion in the circle.
Okay.
And have, like, really, like, contorted faces visible in the flame.
Okay. So as this all happens, so Boo, you shout, and then you also suddenly kind of find yourself enveloped in this illusory flame. It doesn't feel like anything, but you also hear this very loud boom from around you as this happens. You aren't quite sure what to think because from where you are, you didn't know Zara was doing this. So for all you know, you're caught up inside some sort of God knows what pillar of screaming faces fire in the summoning circle. So you might have peed a little bit there, but all of this commotion, the 2 kind of human cultists kind of look around in kind of startled by this. The gnoll that was standing, kind of near the stairs, kind of looks around, startled a bit as well. The very large gnoll-looking creature, and Boo, like as you're in front of it now, you get kind of a better look at it here. Let me. Yeah, let's see. Oh, that's just a regular gnoll. I mean, from what you can see from the front as all of this is happening, while the other three are startled, this larger gnoll almost seems to smile. Like, he seems kind of happy about this. Like, it's difficult to tell because the way the gnoll faces are, like, it's a little difficult to tell, but he doesn't seem particularly phased and continues whatever chant he was doing. And Boo, you kind of hear this hissing noise on either side of you in the circle here, and two gnoll witherlings kind of appear on either side of you, kind of rising up out of the ground, these bones and dust kind of, coalescing together into these, these gnoll witherlings similar to the ones you saw out front. And the larger gnoll on the stairs here, like, seeing these two, gnoll witherlings come up out of this circle, turns around and looks at the four of you back up the hall and lets out a pretty ferocious roar and hefts this huge sword off of his back. And that is where we will stop tonight.
Oh, snap.
Well, I didn't die yet.
Well, you're still
You're still invisible.
You
just got some not fun around you.
And a little bit of urine.
And a little bit of pee.
He dribbles down my leg as I try and figure out how I'm not.
Oh, nice one. All right, so we'll call that good for this time. Thank you all for coming. We will see y'all in 2 weeks. See you guys on the stream. Bye.